On the outskirts of a small Illinois town lies a stretch of road most locals avoid after sundown. The road cuts through farmland and forest before it bends sharply and forces drivers across a narrow, rusting bridge. The structure is old, steel beams creaking, wooden planks rattling under the weight of even the smallest car. Truckers call it Archer's Bridge, but to the townspeople, it's simply known as the Crying Woman's Crossing. The stories go back nearly a century. People talk of a mother who lost her child to the river's strong currents. Some say she slipped while trying to save him. Others claim she threw herself into the water after finding his body downstream. Either way, both lives ended there. Since then, the bridge has earned a reputation, not for accidents, but for encounters. Drivers who've crossed it at night often return pale, shaken, insisting they heard something that didn't belong. They describe a sound so raw, so heartbroken, it claws into you. The unmistakable sobbing of a woman. One cold October night, Caleb, a college sophomore driving home after visiting friends, approached Archer's Bridge. The air was damp, heavy with fog rolling low across the two-lane road. His headlights seemed swallowed by the mist, the world ahead nothing but shadow. As his tires clunked against the start of the bridge, a sudden chill filled the car, sharp enough to make him shiver. He turned down the radio, frowning. That's when he heard it. At first it was faint, like wind slipping through the beams. But with every foot he drove, it grew louder. A soft weeping, fragile, human. Caleb slowed, gripping the wheel. The sobbing was close now, echoing off the steel like the sound was trapped inside the structure itself. He leaned toward the passenger window, peering through the fog. And then he saw her, a woman standing at the railing. Her white gown hung in tatters, clinging to her thin frame. Long strands of dark, wet hair covered her face. Her shoulders shook with every sob. Caleb's stomach tightened. His first instinct was to help. He rolled his window down, his voice trembling. "Miss, are you okay?" The crying stopped instantly. The woman froze, her back still to him. Then, slowly, unnaturally slowly, she turned her head. Her face was pale as bone, lips blue, eyes sunken deep into hollow sockets. Water dripped steadily from her skin, though the bridge itself was dry. When her mouth moved, her voice came out cracked, almost broken. "He took my child." Caleb's breath caught in his throat. He couldn't look away. Her black, empty eyes locked on his, and then she screamed. It wasn't the scream of a living person. It was shrill, jagged, filled with so much grief and rage that the bridge itself seemed to shake with it. Caleb's vision blurred. His ears rang. He slammed the accelerator, desperate to escape. The car roared forward, bouncing violently across the old planks. He didn't dare look back. He just drove until the bridge was behind him, and the road stretched out into the mist again. But then he heard it. A soft sound from the back seat. A whimper. Caleb's chest constricted. He forced himself to glance in the rearview mirror. Nothing but darkness. Still, the sobbing grew louder, curling around him, filling the car. He drove faster, his eyes watering, his heart hammering. The sound followed him for miles, fading only when he reached the safety of town lights. Later, Caleb told his story to a group of locals in a diner. Their faces said it all. They'd heard this before. One older man leaned forward, voice low. "She waits," he said. "Every night she waits for someone to answer her. If you speak to her, she follows you. You're lucky she let you leave. Some folks don't make it across. Their cars get found on the bridge, doors wide open, but no one inside." Caleb never drove that route again. But sometimes in the quiet of night he swears he hears the faint echo of sobbing, like it's following him home. And every time he passes a bridge now, he keeps his eyes fixed forward. Terrified he'll see that pale, waterlogged face staring back at him. Some bridges carry more than traffic. They carry memories, whispers, and things that never left. In Kentucky, tucked away in farmland and forest, sits one such bridge. A crooked wooden structure spanning a narrow river, its beams black with age and its guardrails warped like broken ribs. Truckers call it Devil's Crossing. The name didn't come from locals. It came from those who barely made it across. The stories all sound the same. Headlights that appear behind you in the fog, pressing closer, closer, until they're right on your bumper. And if you hesitate, if you stop, those lights don't vanish. They pass you. The problem? Devil's Crossing is only wide enough for one vehicle. Nothing should be able to pass. Mark had been on the road for nearly 2 decades, and he thought he'd seen it all. But that September night tested every bit of that confidence. It was supposed to be a routine run. Construction detours and a missed turn left him navigating the winding back roads of rural Kentucky. He trusted his GPS reluctantly, his gut twisting as the road narrowed and trees pressed close on either side. Then, through the mist, he saw it. The bridge. A crooked sign warned Devil's Crossing, 1 lane only. Mark muttered under his breath. Figures. The rain had just begun, making the boards glisten like wet bones. He slowed, easing his semi onto the planks. The bridge groaned immediately, as though protesting his weight. The fog was thicker here, curling around his headlights, swallowing the world beyond a few feet. The sound of his engine seemed muffled, the only clear noise the creak and rattle of the wooden structure beneath him. Halfway across, his CB crackled. A hiss of static filled the cab, then a faint, broken voice whispered through the channel. "Get off the bridge." Mark froze, heart hammering. He snatched the mic. "Breaker, who's out there? Come again?" The channel went dead. Then the lights appeared. In his side mirror, 2 beams flickered into existence, bright and white, impossibly close. He jerked his head toward the back window, but the fog was so dense he couldn't make out a shape. Just the glow. The bridge was too narrow. No one could be back there without ramming him. Yet the lights followed, steady, never swerving. Mark's pulse spiked. He pressed the accelerator, his truck rumbling dangerously across the slick boards. Every thump of the tires felt like it could be the last, the whole bridge ready to collapse beneath him. The lights surged closer, flooding his cab with white glare. Mark grabbed the CB again, his voice unsteady. "Whoever's back there, lay off. This bridge won't hold us both." This time the CB responded, but not with a voice, with laughter. Low, distorted, like it was bubbling up from underwater. Mark's grip tightened on the wheel, sweat trickling down his temple despite the cold night. He forced himself to look straight ahead, but curiosity got the better of him. One glance into the mirror and he wished he hadn't. The headlights weren't attached to anything. No truck, no grill. Just 2 blazing orbs floating inches above the wooden planks, keeping perfect pace with him. His chest locked up. He floored the accelerator. The truck lurched, tires slipping dangerously, the bridge rattling so violently he thought it would tear apart. Then, just when he thought he'd never reach the end, the fog thinned. He shot off the bridge and skidded onto the gravel shoulder. The semi shook violently as it came to a stop. Mark whipped his head around. The bridge was empty. No lights, no truck, just the sound of rain hitting the wood. Mark sat there, gripping the wheel until his hands hurt. Finally, after forcing his breath to steady, he drove to the next truck stop, pale as a sheet. He told his story in hushed tones, expecting to be laughed at. But the drivers didn't laugh. One old-timer leaned forward, eyes heavy with something that wasn't surprise but recognition. "You saw it too," the man said. Mark frowned. What the hell was it? The man stirred his coffee slowly before answering. In '74, a rig jackknifed on that bridge. Driver was pinned when the boards gave out. Drowned before help could reach him. They pulled the wreck out, but not his lights. Some folks say they've been chasing people off that bridge ever since. Another driver spoke up. My cousin swore he saw the same thing. Said the lights rode him all the way off the bridge. He never drove again. Mark shook his head. It felt real, like it was right there. The old man's voice dropped lower. That's 'cause it is, but you're lucky. Sometimes those lights don't just follow. Sometimes they pull drivers back into the water. Mark left the diner shaken, his coffee untouched. He never took that road again, but the curse lingered. Every time he drives through fog, his eyes flick to the mirror. And sometimes, just for a second, he swears he sees them again. Two blinding lights hovering in the mist. Waiting, watching, and he knows if they ever catch him on a bridge again, he won't make it to the other side. There are bridges that carry people across water, and there are bridges that carry something else. Memories, curses, the weight of tragedies never forgotten. In Virginia, deep in a stretch of rural backroads, there's one such place. An old stone and steel bridge spanning a narrow river, the kind of structure most people drive across without a second thought in daylight. But at night it's different. Locals call it Raven's Bridge, named for the blackbirds that always seem to gather there, perched along its railing, silent and watchful. The farmers say the birds never leave, no matter the season, no matter the hour. Truckers who pass through at night whisper another name for it, the Devil's Dog Crossing. Because if you're unlucky, you'll see it waiting for you. A massive black hound with glowing red eyes, always standing in the middle of the bridge, and once you see it, you'll never forget. Derek was no stranger to long, lonely nights behind the wheel. He'd been running deliveries for years, and thought he'd grown numb to dark roads, foggy fields, and the silence that creeps into your cab when the radio dies. But one stormy November night, Raven's Bridge reminded him that some roads are never truly empty. The rain poured hard, bouncing off the windshield, the wipers squealing with each pass. Fog clung low across the asphalt, and the road narrowed until Derek saw the shape of the bridge ahead, arched, with worn stone supports and rusting metal rails. His headlights lit it only faintly, and the river below churned black under the storm. That's when he noticed something strange. The bridge was lined with birds. Dozens of ravens, motionless in the rain, their feathers slick and gleaming, their eyes reflecting back his headlights. None of them moved as his van approached. Then he saw it. At the center of the bridge, something stood tall. A dog. At first, Derek thought it was just a stray, some farmer's animal caught in the storm. But the closer he got, the more wrong it felt. The dog wasn't pacing or shivering. It was still, planted firmly in the center, staring him down. Its fur was pitch black, darker than the shadows. Its body looked too large, too heavy to be natural. And then its eyes opened. Twin orbs of red fire burning against the night. Derek's grip tightened on the wheel. Every instinct screamed at him to stop, but something else, something primal, told him that stopping was the worst thing he could do. He tapped the horn, the sound echoing across the river valley. The dog didn't move. Instead, it lifted its head higher, lips peeling back to reveal jagged teeth. Then it made a sound. Not a growl, not a bark, a scream. Low, guttural, like metal tearing apart, mixed with the howl of a storm. The van's windshield vibrated. Derek's bones rattled. His breath caught in his throat as the sound rose, drowning out the rain and thunder until it felt like the whole bridge was alive with the noise. Panic surged through him. He slammed his foot on the accelerator, praying the animal would move. It didn't. Instead, just as the van was about to hit it, the black dog vanished, gone in the blink of an eye. Derek shot across the bridge, his chest heaving. But relief didn't come, because then he heard it. Claws. Scraping, scratching, pounding against the roof of the van. Derek's heart raced. His eyes darted to the mirror. And that's when he saw it. The dog's head hanging upside down over the back window, eyes blazing red, saliva dripping from its jagged teeth. It grinned at him, lips curled unnaturally, like it was enjoying the fear boiling in his veins. Derek screamed, jerking the wheel, the van fishtailing on the wet road. He nearly crashed into the railing, barely correcting in time. When he looked back, the head was gone. The sound of claws vanished too, but the fear stayed. He drove until he found a glowing gas station sign, stumbling inside pale and soaked with sweat. The clerk eyed him nervously. "You all right, buddy? You look like you saw the devil." Derek stammered. "Black dog, on the bridge, red eyes, it was..." He cut himself off, realizing how insane he sounded. The clerk's expression shifted. He leaned closer, his voice hushed. "Raven's Bridge?" Derek froze. "Yeah, why?" The clerk nodded slowly, almost grimly. "You're not the first. People see it all the time. Big hound, eyes like fire. They say it's been there since the 1800s. He explained how long ago a farmer was found dead on that very bridge. His body was torn apart, no sign of who or what had attacked him. The only clue was a trail of paw prints, far larger than any natural dog, burned black into the wooden boards. Others claimed it was a curse, that the bridge had been built on old burial land, and the dog was a guardian, or a hunter, bound to keep souls from crossing. Some even swore it was no dog at all, but the devil himself, taking form to claim travelers who linger too long. The clerk's voice lowered further. "If you see it, you keep driving, always. My uncle made the mistake of stopping. He tried to chase it off. Next morning, they found his truck still idling on the bridge. But he was gone, door locked from the inside. Never seen again." Derek sat frozen, goosebumps crawling up his arms. He never drove that road again. But the memory never left. Every storm since, he hears it, the scrape of claws, faint at first, then louder, as though the dog is just waiting for him to cross another bridge alone. And sometimes when lightning flashes, he swears he sees two red eyes staring at him from the shadows of the road. Watching, waiting, knowing one night when his luck runs out, the black dog of Raven's Bridge will be there again. Not all hauntings come from anger or vengeance. Some come from grief so heavy it lingers, refusing to leave the earth. Hollow Creek Bridge is one of those places. From the outside, it looks like nothing. Just a cracked two-lane bridge stretching across a shallow creek in rural Tennessee. The concrete is chipped, moss creeps along the edges, and the guardrails are rusted thin. Drivers cross it without a second thought during the day, but at night locals avoid it at all costs. They whisper that if you stop on the bridge and cut the engine, the silence won't last long. That you'll hear voices, soft, childlike, calling out through the dark. Some giggle like they're playing, others cry. And if you're unlucky, you'll feel hands, tiny, unseen, pushing against your car, trying to move it forward. Joanne didn't know the story. She was a nurse finishing a double shift, exhausted to the point of nausea, driving home in the dead of night. The road wound through empty farmland, the moon hidden by heavy clouds. When her car's temperature gauge spiked into the red, she groaned. Steam hissed from under the hood. The only place to pull over was the narrow stretch of Hollow Creek Bridge. She eased onto it, parked, and killed the engine. The moment the car went quiet, she realized how heavy the silence was. Not just quiet, dead quiet. No frogs from the creek, no crickets in the fields, just the faint trickle of water and her own breathing. She leaned back, rubbing her eyes. That's when she heard it. A giggle, high-pitched, playful. Joanne blinked, sitting up straight. "Hello?" The sound came again, this time on the opposite side of the car. She turned, scanning with wide eyes. Nothing but fog curling around the guardrails. Her stomach knotted. Then came the tapping. 3 soft knocks on the driver's door, too low. Lower than any adult would reach, like the height of a child. Joanne's heart jumped. She whispered to herself, "It's just nerves. Overtired." But then the car rocked, just slightly, as though someone had pushed it from behind. She froze, her hands gripping the steering wheel even though the engine was off. Another push, harder this time. The frame groaned. Then came the voices, whispers layered over whispers, rising around her car like a tide. Some giggled, some whimpered. And through it all, she heard one phrase, faint at first, then clearer. "Help us." Joanne's throat tightened. She fumbled with the keys, twisting hard. The engine coughed but didn't start. The voices grew louder, circling her. The car rocked again, harder, as though dozens of tiny hands pressed against it. Tears welled in her eyes. "Please stop," she whispered. The voices fell silent. Then on the passenger side window, something appeared. A pale face. Small. Childlike. Skin waterlogged, eyes wide and black, mouth open in a soundless scream. Joanne shrieked, slamming the ignition again. The engine roared to life. She floored the gas, shooting across the bridge so fast she nearly spun out. She didn't look back. She didn't know then, but she'd met the children of Hollow Creek. Years ago, on a rainy night, a school bus had been carrying kids home from a late game. The road was slick, the bridge's concrete worn smooth by years of water. The bus skidded. Witnesses say the driver fought for control, but the wheels locked, and the bus smashed through the guardrail, plunging into the creek below. The water wasn't deep, but it was enough. The bus rolled, pinning the children inside. Screams echoed in the valley, but by the time rescuers arrived, it was too late. Most of the kids drowned in the muddy water. Only a handful survived, scarred for life. After that night, the stories began. Drivers reported children's voices on the bridge. Cars left in neutral rolled forward as if pushed. Some even found tiny handprints smeared in condensation on their windows. Joanne didn't learn this until later. She told her story to a coworker at the hospital, who went pale as soon as she mentioned the bridge. "You stopped there?" the woman whispered. "Joanne, that's Hollow Creek. You're lucky." Joanne frowned. "Lucky? They were kids. Ghosts. They wanted help." The woman shook her head. "They don't always let people go. There are stories of drivers who vanish there. Their cars get found empty, engines running, doors still locked. Some folks say the children pull them under into the creek, desperate not to be alone." Joanne's blood went cold. She hasn't driven that road since. She adds an hour to her commute, even on the longest shifts, because she knows the moment her tires hit that cracked concrete, she'll hear them again. The laughter, the sobbing, the tiny hands pressing against her car. And maybe this time they won't let her leave. Miller's Bridge isn't long. It isn't grand. Just a narrow stretch of steel and cracked concrete in rural Ohio, connecting 2 forgotten dirt roads across a dark gorge. In daylight, it feels like a relic, weathered, lonely, with the river glistening faintly beneath. But after the sun sets, the bridge transforms into something else entirely. For decades, locals have avoided it at night. They talk of a figure that appears in the fog, a tall man in a trench coat who waits on the bridge. They call him the man without a face. Some whisper that he doesn't just watch, he hunts. Tom didn't believe in such things. He was a traveling salesman, more concerned with making his next meeting than with ghost stories. But late one October night, long after the last town's lights had faded, his GPS rerouted him down winding back roads. The fog was thick, the kind that swallows headlights whole. That's when Miller's Bridge appeared. Tom slowed, squinting through the haze. At first it seemed empty, but as he approached, his heart gave a sudden lurch. A man stood by the railing, coattails dragging across the concrete in the damp wind. Tom rolled down his window a crack. "Hey, need help?" The figure turned slowly. Tom's breath caught in his throat. Where the man's face should have been was nothing. Just smooth, pale skin like wax stretched tight. No eyes, no mouth, no nose. Yet Tom felt something impossible. A gaze. A crushing weight pressing into his chest, burrowing into his thoughts. He slammed the gas, heart hammering. The car shot forward, tires screeching as it raced past the figure. Relief barely touched him before he looked ahead again. The faceless man stood in the road, blocking the bridge. Tom's scream echoed in the car as he braked hard, tires skidding. His knuckles whitened on the wheel. The figure tilted its head as if curious. Then it moved, not walking but gliding across the wet concrete. Closer. Closer. Panic surged. Tom slammed the gear shift into reverse, tires squealing as the car hurtled backwards. He turned to look. The faceless man was behind him too. Two of them. One in front, one in back. Both identical. Both watching without eyes. The car stalled. The engine died. Silence dropped heavy, the kind that makes your ears ring. Then came the sound. Knuckles. Slow, deliberate tapping against his window. Tom turned, trembling. Inches away, the faceless man leaned down, his hand pressed against the glass. The pale skin of its fingers spread wide, long and unnatural. Its featureless head twitched as though something beneath the skin was straining to break out. Tom's breath hitched. No. No, 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 no. Then impossibly the skin rippled, and for one horrifying moment a mouth formed, gaping, black, too wide. From it came a voice. Not a single voice, but dozens layered over each other, guttural, broken, seeping into his skull like oil. "Give us your face." Tom shrieked, fumbling with the ignition. His hand slipped on the keys, his body shaking violently. The figure pressed harder against the window, the glass creaking under the pressure. The skin of its face began to bulge outward, stretching thin like wet paper. Something inside clawed to escape. Suddenly the car roared back to life. The headlights flared. The bridge was empty. No figures, no sound, just fog curling thick around the steel beams. Tom didn't wait. He slammed the gas, tires screaming as he shot across the bridge, and didn't stop until he reached a well-lit gas station 20 miles away. Inside the diner next to the station, he told his story in a shaky voice. The waitress froze mid-step, setting her coffee pot down with trembling hands. "You saw him," she whispered. Tom's face drained. Saw what? She leaned close, her eyes darting toward the windows as if afraid he might follow. The man without a face. He's been out there since the 1920s. Tom swallowed hard. What happened to him? The woman's voice dropped. They say he was a farmer. Lost everything in the Depression. His land, his family. One night, he hung himself from that bridge. But when they found him, his face was gone. Torn away. Skin smooth as glass. People say whatever took it left him wandering, searching for another to steal. Tom shook his head, tears in his eyes. He told me to give him mine. The waitress shuddered. Then you're marked. You'll see him again. Tom left that night with his nerves shredded, swearing never to return. But weeks later, in his hotel bathroom, he caught something in the mirror. A figure standing just behind him. Tall, pale, faceless. And in the reflection, Tom swore his own face looked blurred, as if something was already pulling it away. If you made it this far, thank you for spending your night with us. If these stories gave you chills, there's plenty more waiting. Don't forget to subscribe to Night Fear Stories for new terrifying tales every single night. Sleep well, if you can.